Hallo, ich bin die Amanda Palmer und mehr von mir gibt's auf intro.de. If anything in my life, I have the problem of just too many ideas and too much stuff. And, you know, I wish there was some kind of rule book or a way to plan how to combine creativity and ideas and production. Because I'm making it up all the time, trying to figure out, I have all these ideas and I write all these songs and I want to do all these projects. And I wish there was someone there. I think maybe technically in some fantasy world your manager does that. But mostly what I've seen in my world is that your manager sits there and waits for you to tell them what you want them to do. Whereas I find myself wandering around going like, how am I supposed to do all this? How am I supposed to time all this? And with the No Virginia record, Brian and the record was my idea because I knew we had all these leftover songs and I just psychologically, I wanted to get them out of the way, to make room for something new, especially the solo album and for the next Dresden Dolls record when it comes. And so I brought the idea to the label and the management and to Brian, and they were like, well, okay, like, you want to put this record out, like, why? And I was like, well, what do you mean why? Like, the songs exist. Why not just put them out? It's a hard thing about life in general, that you wish there was someone up there just telling you, like, okay, this is what you're supposed to do next. Right. And then you could just blindly follow and say, oh, good, it's glad to know that I'm on the right plan. And it's the same way with the band and the solo projects. I'm just, making it all up as I go along and hoping that I'm maybe making the right decisions. But, you have to follow your instincts. And as I remember Brian and I, we put this whole record together, No Virginia, all these old tracks. We recorded some new tracks. We put in some covers. And we sat down and we listened to the record. And we were like, this is really good. Are you sure we want to just toss it out there with no touring and no promotion and no press? And then we got really depressed. Because I was like, oh, maybe this is wrong. Maybe we should just be holding on to all this stuff for another 3 years. Maybe I'll never write another song again. And maybe 3 years from now we're going to need this record. And we should just put it in the bank. And, I ended up just saying, fuck it. No, let's put it out. But yeah, that's a very hard thing about being, an artist, period. It's just trying to figure out that creativity versus producing. Yeah, I think I haven't written a song in about a year. And I think, for me at least, songwriting is like a faucet. You can turn it on and it comes. But if my brain is too busy with other things, which especially lately it has been, I've been making a record of songs I already wrote. I've been touring constantly. I've been working on the Dresden Dolls. And in between those cracks, there's barely enough time to, like, call my friend up, see my family, do, like, real life shit that I don't want to take for granted. And that leaves literally no creative space or room for writing. And, I used to worry about that a lot more. Because, the Dresden Dolls would go on tour starting way back in the day, like starting in 2002 or something. The Dresden Dolls would be on tour and we'd come home and I'd be writing email and catching up and trying to see my family and trying to connect with my friends and trying to have relationships. And I would be simultaneously, like, whipping myself on the back going like, why aren't you writing? Why aren't you writing songs? You're traveling all over the world telling people you're a songwriter, but really you're full of shit because you're not writing anything. And it took me a long time to be able to step back and say, like, well, of course you're not writing anything. You're so fucking busy. Like, you're busier than most people you know. And, creativity really takes, like, space and silence. And I notice that when I'm home for a long enough stretch of time, and I maybe have 3 or 4 days off at home and I don't have, like, serious deadlines for getting artwork in or whatever, the music just comes into my head. I just read a really interesting interview with Alanis Morissette, who I'm not a big fan of, but you can tell she's really intelligent. And she was saying in the interview, she comes back from a tour, from an album cycle, and she doesn't write and doesn't have any music in her head for months and months and months. And then she'll notice around the house she starts humming without thinking about it. Like, she just starts getting little tunes in her head. And she says, okay, well, that means it's time to go back into that phase. But yeah, I mean, the music, it's sort of like being tuned to a radio frequency. It's sort of always there. You just have to tune into it. You know, it's a skill like anything else. I don't really believe in like divine inspiration, that you've just got to be this antenna waiting there and a slave to the inspiration, because songwriting is like, you know, to me it's like cooking. Like, you know, you go to the kitchen and the stuff is there to bake with, and you can take it out of the closet and you can make a cake. You don't have to like wake up at 3 a.m. and like answer the call of the, you know, cake that must be made right now. You know, if you're a good craftsman. And that isn't to say that there is this frustrating thing where you'll be on the road or walking down the street and busy and get a good idea, and I'll watch that idea just go like, hi, bye, I'm never coming back. Because, you know, if I don't take the time to sit down and do it right there, it'll disintegrate. You know, it's like a little embryo. You've got to really take care of it, or it's not usable 3 months later.